So Atraxa's win rate have been dropping. So currently we have 571 tournament entries with Atraxa Grand Unifier and an average win rate from that of 20.82. But I wanna emphasize the -3%. You see, I calculate development from the start of this year. So at the start of this year, her win rate was 3% more. In other words, Atraxa has been doing better before this date. Now, I actually predicted that Atraxa would be a bad commander for the cEDH format. It's just a little bit too expensive. And you're lacking red, which means you're lacking Dockside and Underworld Breach, which is kinda key if you're going for turbo strategies, that is. For example, Food Chain, heavily played, but still also not doing great. Because Food Chain in general is in the end a pretty bad combo to go for. It is a dead card, and you're suddenly forced to play these other bad cards. And as you can see here, Eternal Scourge inside Atraxa doesn't do that good either. It is dragging down the win rate to 17.55 for those 170 decks that have included it. That's a drop by -3.27. Now Atraxa can also play things like Ad Nauseam, tutor for that one card combo, cast Ad Nauseam, draw into your deck, and start casting rituals and win the game with the typical Thassa's Oracle Consult victory. Now we have 72 decks that have been playing Ad Nauseam inside their Atraxa build, which is an 12.6 inclusion rate and a win rate of 20.18, a drop by 0.64. So it's not doing great inside Atraxa. The other approach then might be to look for value engines like Talion, Fairy Mastermind and such. But Talion doesn't look that great either. Now we have the perfect 50-50 split, which is what you wanna have when you're looking at statistics. We have one group that is basically including Talion, and the other group that is not playing Talion inside Atraxa, basically 282 tournament entries with Talion inside their decklist, with an average win rate of 19.74, which is a drop by 1%. So Talion is not really helping out Atraxa's victories either. Fun fact is that Notion Thief did, but it's a very small sample size, so we don't really know if this is going to be something we can truly trust. 66 decks is still quite a lot. We have a really high sample size of 571, so we are gonna have a lot of data in general, but it is kinda hard to say in stone how things are exactly going forward for you. Now this is more of a stacks effect than a value engine, to be fair, and maybe you're playing inside a wheel meta, and then Notion Thief might be really good in those situations. Now I actually have another theory why Notion Thief is seeing a good win rate while Talion is not seeing a good win rate. Now I have looked at Talion in other commander combinations, for example Tymna and Crom, I've seen it in Cisse, and I've seen it in most other Grixis combinations, and one thing I've noticed is that Talion is usually having a pretty good win rate, but when you look at Talion as the commander, it's also pretty down bad. Here we have it, Talion the Kindly Lord, 368 tournament entries with a win rate of 19.05. So played as a commander, it's actually doing worse than Atraxa. Now we can actually point out that the win rate for Talion has been going upwards, so maybe we'll see a shift. Atraxa is currently kinda going downwards, but has a higher win rate. Talion is coming from a lower end and is going upwards, but still. But the big problem for Talion as a commander is that it doesn't really win the match. You're sitting there and controlling the game. I mean, you can look at the draw rate, 23.36. It's a very high draw rate. And I think that's the problem for Talion inside the Atraxa deck as well. Atraxa is kinda struggling at winning the match, where Talion inside the 99 doesn't help you with that. You need a combo finisher, you need something that gets you to your victory, not some... You also need value engines, don't get me wrong, but you need game plans that wins the match. Like Ad Naus, that has a higher win rate compared to Talion. Now it's still very low, but also the sample size could increase. And if we had more games with it, maybe we will see a difference in the future upcoming events of how Atraxa develops. But it's really hard to find cards that are doing good for Atraxa in general, like Kinnan is not showcasing a good result, Once again, this is a value engine for you. It doesn't really win the match for Atraxa at all. Necropotence haven't really been tested enough, in my opinion. Inside Atraxa we have 13 decks that have played it, an inclusion rate of 1.3%, win rate of 15.52, so that is showcasing a very bad promise, and I can actually see why. You don't have access to red, so you don't have access to Final Fortune, and we have actually made a video looking into Necropotence without Final Fortune. Necropotence and Bonaparte Wind is kinda something, but you need more. Having Final Fortune is very key in Necropotence being good. I found this card though, that is also a victory card of sort. Mnemonic Betrayal is sometimes a one card combo once the match has been a little bit too long, because you basically get an access to all of your opponent's graveyard, and with that you can get someone's Underworld Breach, you can get someone's Fastest, you can get their fast mana. I've seen a lot of games winning with just someone resolving Mnemonic Betrayal and only using opponent's cards to win the match. Once again, I think that the big message here for Atraxa is that she has a lot of different value engines accessible to her in the color identities that she has, but with a very high expensive commander, she needs better combos to finish the match. And this is one of those potential cards to do that. As you can see, the win rate is going up by 1.62%. I mean, take even a look at this, the One Ring, heavily played. The win rate is dropping by 0.52% basically. And once again, I would like to emphasize the same message. The One Ring is really good usually when I look at other commander pairs like Tymnan Krom and other Ceesay, Nayelas and such. It's doing great jobs in those those commander decks. But here, it's just one other value engine among many. What you're lacking is ways to finish the game in victories. You need more combos, so to say. Or better combos. Like once again, people are gonna say Food Chain, that's a good combo, but no, Food Chain in general is a bad combo. To emphasize the key importance of combos, Tutors, Beshi the Mirror, a new card, have been upgrading Atraxa a bit, because Tutors are usually good replacements for combos. With this you can basically find your Food Chain. Now we would prefer if we could swap out Food Chain for something better, but you have to use what you have. Now you're going to say that Demonic Tutor is a lot better, and yes it is, but Demonic Tutor is auto-included, so it has a 100% inclusion rate, which means that we're getting the exact identical win rate as the total average. If there would be a 50-50 split, we would see a big difference in Demonic Tutor. But as this is something of only 26.3, no, 0.3 inclusion rate, we have an average win rate of 23.50. So the indication here is that Tutors seems to be a good thing for Atraxa. We can actually take a look at that in my heat map. So what you're seeing here is basically how you're seeing win rate from top to bottom, and then you're seeing the amount from left to right. And then you're seeing red numbers in different positions. So you have, for example, here you have 2 decks that have entered into tournaments with an average win rate of 20 with a total count of 2 tutors. Now, if you're looking clearly here, you're seeing that the highest density, you're seeing the more color of black in these squares, the higher the density, is around 10 to 12. And if we do this, we're getting a more simpler picture, so to say. This is actually showcasing the exact same thing as the heat map, but a little bit more clearer to actually see. What you want to hit is the blue dot as high as possible with a smaller spread to how much these little lines are apart. So the highest dot is at 10 tutors to the count, but we have less spread on 11. And the reason for that is that we have more data on the 11 count, but it seems to be that the 10 amount of tutors is the better, is where you're receiving a better win rate, basically. Hope you understood that, but you want to have a blue dot as high as possible, and you want to have a spread that is as small as possible. The smaller it is, the more trustworthy the result is. And the takeaway from this is that the more tutor around 10 to 11 seems to be the better option. Like, You can play something around 3 to 4, but you're getting a little bit better win rate if you're climbing up to 10. We can do the same thing with the counter spells. So if I just move a little bit to the side, you can see the finalized win rate a little bit better. Now I would like to say that it doesn't really showcase like that big of a difference. The takeaway could be something that if you're playing a very low amount of counter spells, you have a pretty good result. Then if you're playing a really high amount of counter spells, you also have a pretty good result. The in-between area seems to be the wrong position, so it's hard to take something away from this. Stacks cards are also telling a similar story. It starts really high, then it goes down, and then it goes up to the amount, so to say. But the big takeaway here is that the lowest amount of stacks possible is receiving the highest possible win rate. For example, if you only have 3 stacks cards, you're receiving a highest possible of 22 average win rate, compared to the 7 that is below. It's something around the 21, 8 you have something around 18, and then at 11 stacks cards you're at something like 19 win rate. So if we take a look at specifically stacks cards for Atraxa, there are those that are like dragging it down, like Doffy Voidwalker, Elish Non, Mother of Machines. I can see the appeal, like you're getting double triggers for your Atraxa, but it's like a win more situation, so to say. Gilded Drake seems to have been doing good for this deck. It's not really a stacks card, to be honest. It's actually not even on my stacks list, but it functions like a control card. It's more like a spot removal, to be honest. Grand Arbiter Augustine IV is actually a good stacks card for Atraxa. It kind of helps you casting your really expensive commander while making it hard for your opponents to cast theirs. So yeah, this one seems to be doing good for Atraxa. Opposition Agent has a really high inclusion rate, 89.8 inclusion rate basically in percentage, and then win rate that is close to identical to the average total win rate. Same thing with Orcish Bowmaster, is also like minus 0.39, small drop, but honestly pretty close to identical. We already looked at Notion Thief, but once again, Notion Thief is yes a stacks card, but it's also giving you a kind of a win con. You can win the game with Notion Thief, so to say. Draenei Magistrate, heavily played inside Atraxa, apparently, but also not really showcasing it's not really changing the win rate that much. Like sure, it's on red, but it's 0.13, so that's like nothing. Basically identical to the average total win rate in the end. Blind Obedience, however, is dragging down the win rate by 1%. We have an inclusion rate of 33.8%. So it's like a 1/3 of all the Atraxa decks have included it. And yeah, doesn't seem to be recommended. So how are we gonna make this change? How are we gonna make the Atraxa win rate go up again? Now once again, I think that the big message has been to look at different options of how Atraxa could win the game. Increase the combo potential, so to say. Figure out ways to achieve victory more consistent and faster. And move away from weaker combo options. I've actually looked at this combo specifically and showcased in another video how it was bad, how Hermit Druid, even though Tyvar have been a new upgrade for Hermit Druid, haven't really made any good progress for that combo, and the overall verdict is that not really recommended at all. But once again, I think it's worth mentioning that these combos are usually really good, the Necropotence and Ad Nauseam, when you have access to red, in that Dockside, in that Underworld Breach, and in that Final Fortune version. Currently, I don't think that the cards exist that would make Atraxa work better, or make the win rate go from downwards to more upward trajectory. But I truly think that trying to look at how you can improve turbo combo speed and combo consistency is a good thing to look into inside your 99. Like trying to get your commander into play and value through the match haven't really showcased to work anymore. But until there are some improvements for a very expensive commander on Sans Red in new printing of new cool cards, I think that Atraxa's win rate is sadly going to struggle. I do think that there are potential improvements in various hows you can make her faster and more efficient, but still, I think it's gonna be an uphill fight. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this little short Atraxa update video. Take care guys, and I'll see you in the next one.